Today is about the complete process of understanding that there are some basics to the creative process, which is the 7 steps in speed manifesting. And then there is the other side of the equation, which is blocks and barriers and beingness. So first of all, just a reassurance for you that when you get the creative process clear, when you understand how to manifest, or rather how the process of manifesting unfolds, when you get clear on that, everything starts to move. You've opened the flow. Things start to happen very, very quickly. And as I found, within 1 hour, things started to change for me. Not only did I get clarity, but I got intuition to lead me to exactly what I had asked for. I got grateful in advance. I understood that it wasn't all about me doing it, but that I took action, that I trusted some hunch that I had, that I followed that. And the idea of the 7 steps is to get you really clear on the manifesting process, which includes the creative life process. And then the final part of the speed manifesting process is, and here's what not to do. So that's understanding the 12 blocks and barriers to manifesting fast, that we either create ourselves or that we have to accept as this is just the way life is designed and human beings are designed, and put those two together. So I want to reassure you again, it's okay to have such a simple process as speed manifesting laid out in front of you, and have you start to use it and have it start to work, and then notice that it stops working. It's okay. It's all part of the process. If you had no beliefs, or rather if you had no 3rd degree beliefs, which are those other people's beliefs all mixed into some sort of a worldview, if you have too many of those, then your manifesting gets slowed down to the point where it doesn't even feel like you're creating anything. As a matter of fact, when you are so immersed in the 3rd degree beliefs, the beliefs that are other people's beliefs, not even other people's experiences, but beyond that, 2nd degree belief, into other people's beliefs, which creates this worldview that is not relevant anymore. When you're so immersed in that, you slow down your manifesting so much to the point where it looks like you're creating things that you don't want. So be aware that when you write down what you do want, and then you begin to imagine having that, being that, doing that, and you can do that without negating it by grief or lack or scarcity, that you can do it with anticipation and an attention to it that is gratitude and appreciation, knowing that it's coming because you understand how the process works, that you understand you create your life from the thinking, which is the beginning of that process. And then you move into what you're speaking, which is the 2nd level of that creation. And then the 3rd level of that creative process from thinking to speaking is taking actions. And so understanding those 3 levels of creating within that, in awareness, in knowing, starts moving things along, and then finally understanding the circulation principle of life, knowing that you're living in a trading world, knowing that you're living in a commerce world that is set up for us to specialize in our gifts through the beauty of money, of a bartering system that is a standardized way of trading. Knowing that the circulation principle is also that spiritual giving and paying forward, while you're also living in a trading world and have mechanisms to receive from others who are giving. And they're giving money generally, but not always. So having the focus not just on money and not just on the things that you want to do, be, or have, but rather allow for possibilities, but focus on what you want, and it doesn't matter how it comes as long as it's aligned to your values and it feels good for you. Right, and that's practicing on receiving. Then we go to the final part of speed manifesting, which is, here's what not to do. Where's my stuff? Why is this not happening? And all of that is part of your beliefs. But first of all, it might just be gestation. It might just be the incubation period required for whatever it is that you're up to manifest, to move from the work that you've done in the unmanifest world and opening up for receiving by taking actions, appropriate actions that are aligned with your request, and then allowing whatever it is that needs to come into existence in order for you to receive that. And it could be that you are becoming someone who could receive that. It could be that there are things being set up in life that allow you to receive that in perfect time and in the best way possible. So you just have to have the faith and the trust and the experience in other levels of building and creating so that you can just let it be until it's ready, until it's time. You put the cake in the oven, you don't keep opening the door to check if it's done yet. You know what happens when that heat disappears and it has to start its momentum all over again. So just let it be until the time comes. And in the meantime, get busy being ready to receive without attachment. And then there are other things that stop us and block us from our manifestation. So the first one that I cover in the book is the gestation, because it's out of your control. It's just one of those universal principles that there's nothing to be done about it except releasing, allowing, and accepting. The time that we call linear time is not universal time, and so our expectations of when we think it should show up in our life, that we've done all the ritual and we've flapped our wings and we've stepped 3 paces one way and then 2 paces the other, and we've done everything we're supposed to do, so where's our stuff? It's just not in our control as to when, and we have to accept that. And at the same time, most of what slows down that are things that are totally in our control when we know what they are and do the work we need to do. So that's removing the blocks and barriers. It's removing mostly the beliefs that have been put there and that we have accepted, so taking responsibility for the beliefs that we have accepted from others. And the benefit of the beliefs that we've accepted from others is if it was their personal experience, then we've saved ourselves from time. We've saved ourselves time, we've saved ourselves pain sometimes. We don't have to go through other people's experiences and have the time or the painful lesson that they had. So there's a benefit in second-degree beliefs, in other people's beliefs that are experiential beliefs, our parents, our teachers, our friends, or us viewing them in their experiences and the consequences of that. And so the beliefs that from that group that don't serve us anymore are easier to let go of when we give our subconscious new orders. It's the third-degree beliefs that cause us the most slowdowns, the most suffering, and the most struggle, I think, because those third-degree beliefs are not from anyone that you physically know or that you've ever known. They're beliefs that are beyond the people that are here now, or they're beliefs from another age that don't suit this age. So those third-degree beliefs are the ones to work on. So it's beliefs that, yes, I categorize lots of different beliefs as resistance, as just not wanting to receive because of previous obligations, lots of other ways of blocking yourself. And the thing is that I give you this list at the end of the book and the method because I don't want you to focus on them. I want you to focus on creating and understanding the creative process within those 7 steps, and then letting go of linear time, which I cover after step 7 and before these 12 things that slow you down in manifesting. All right, so it's not about necessarily beating yourself up or trying to figure out what belief you have to lose to be able to get what you want. Rather, it's focusing on an understanding of beliefs and an understanding of techniques to release energy. And at some stage, whether it's the thought process that you can talk back and forth with within your own head, or the feeling that that thought creates for you, and connecting with that feeling and releasing it, or even closer to fast manifestation is the energy and the way it feels in your body and being able to send the energy on its way. But you get to that energy through your own mechanism of mind. And you wouldn't be here studying speed manifesting or be interested at all if you were so skilled at releasing energy that you constantly can flow energy through you. You would be a master teacher, and you would be teaching that energy technique or being it for people around you to clear their energy. And yet most of us are still in a mind world, and transcending that mind world is one way to approach it, but balancing the mind world is another. And so the bridge for me is balancing the mind world with our spiritual world, with our energy world, and that we are energetic beings, sentient, conscious energetic beings in this 3-dimensional body. The consciousness is here, it's in our body. That's where all of our thinking energy happens, is here. And so when you, hang on a sec, when you can balance those two and find the tools that you need to let go of energy on a regular basis, it's the direction to go if you like to be freer and freer and freer. So I've just got a note from someone saying that there's a little bit of audio or broadcasting issues. So if the audio's still fine, then just go with it. If the video's slowing down, let's keep going. We'll finish the topic, and at least you'll have the audio. And maybe the recording will be fine for you so you can watch it afterwards. Okay. So in terms of what to do when you have studied the speed manifesting method, the creative part of it, remember the other part of it, which is removing the blocks and barriers that are there. The suggested 12 are what you pay attention to if you want to do a checklist quickly. There is a new book that is coming up for me. I can't tell you too much about it now, but just know that it's focused on beliefs and allowing for you to look at more and more beliefs that may be stopping you in different areas. In the meantime, the simplicity of the categories of beliefs or the categories of blocks that I have at the back of speed manifesting are enough for most people to really get things happening fast. And that's even if you have some blocks and barriers. For almost everyone, the first time they go through the first 7 steps, they start to see where they're able to start focusing on filling in the gaps, filling in what to focus on, how to focus on what you do want, and some of the things that help the creative process. Now, if you go through a stage where you think truly you've done all the work you can on identifying a block or barrier, then you want to look at what is the same about this as other times in my life. What is the theme here with other times in my life? And that will start to narrow down things for you to get to more of the thought process. Now, honestly, there are great teachers out there that can take you through a thinking process. There are techniques out there that can take you. Byron Katie is one of them, Eckhart Tolle, taking you through a conversation that starts to question your thinking. I'd like to go to the next level myself, because I think when we don't have to dive deep into memories to then trigger necessarily what we need to clear. We can just ask some questions of ourselves around how we're feeling right now about the block. See, here's the difference. The difference in the technique that I have for releasing blocks is it's not that you are thinking about the thinking. It's that you want to use the thinking to bridge back to the feeling so that you can start to experience the feeling again. And the way that I do this with you is for you to think about the block itself. So for instance, let's just say that you have some sort of health challenge. If you think about that health challenge and you've done all the work you can possibly do to release that health challenge, what you want to do is start dwelling on the relationship you have to the problem. You want to start thinking about how you feel about having the problem. So if there's frustration or shame or something about having this persistent chronic problem that you feel you should be able to resolve through all the knowledge you have and all the training you've had and the personal development you have, that gets into self-blame. And what you want to do is look at that truthfully, okay, and tell the truth about the feeling you have about having the problem. Okay, so that's another level back, and what you're focused on is your relationship with the problem rather than the problem. So you can certainly do work around the problem, around experiencing the problem fully, and that's all valid. If you would like to try something else and really want to get to what's keeping you stuck, then it is about the relationship to the problem, because that's the bond. That's the negative bond, is the relationship, the attachment you have to the problem, which means how you feel about having the problem. And so yes, go ahead and experience the problem and feel it fully. It can be with a memory attached, but that's kind of painful. Sometimes you could just go into your body and feel the energy around whatever it is when you think about the problem and when you feel the problem. And then you could open a door and release it. You can use the release technique, which is very good, the Sedona method, EFT tapping, even as simple as just tapping right here while you are telling the truth about the feelings you have with having this problem. And what you do is you reset the energy systems in your body, or at least you begin to. Okay, so whatever works for you, whatever technique you find, I find a combination works for me. It just depends on what's going on. And so the first thing I do is I go to the method, the creative process, and I begin with step one always, which is, do I know what I want here? What is it that I really want? So, for instance, if I've been thinking that what I wanted was one thing, and then I ask that question because it's been a long time and it's not manifesting in a normal incubation period that I would expect at all, or even just letting go and it's still nothing's happening, I look at, well, what is it I really want? And then sometimes I find what I really want is this. So for instance, when I found that my youngest son was refused a school that I felt he would be very happy at, that it would suit him and his needs, years and years ago. And I even bought a home very, very close to that school after having flown both my boys across to this country from New Zealand. and having them go through interviews, and then finding out while I'm moving on my way to Australia. I'd stopped off in a roundabout way, stopped off in Canada and visited my mother, and from there I found out that my youngest son was not accepted at the school. They just didn't feel that they had the resources to support him, and I was devastated. And so I just stopped and I thought, okay, I know life doesn't work this way. At that point I hadn't even put the speed manifesting method together, but I knew that the way life worked was that you asked for what you wanted and you received it. You became grateful, you imagined it. And so when I got the result I didn't think I wanted, I stopped. I was so devastated, and I felt so victimized, and I felt bad for my son, and all this stuff was going on. So I just thought, just stop. And I wasn't laughing at the time. I was in tears, and I thought, well, what is it that I really want? Do I want him to go to this school? And it was like, no, that's not what I really want. What I want is for him to be happy and well supported at school. And when I got clear on that, I got relaxed. And then I came back a little bit later and I started Googling the schools that were local to where we had bought, and noticed that one of the two schools that we had a choice of had a very good special education unit right there. And my son went to that state school, that local school, for the next 5 years. And he was well supported there in his education. And so sometimes we think that we're going for what we want and we don't get it, and we wonder what's going on, or it takes a long time. My house selling here in Australia was another issue for me, and it was taking too long, and I started doing vision boards that were specific to that. But what happened was I had to get really clear on what I wanted, because it seemed to be getting worse and worse and worse, and I really felt I needed to move on from that place. And so I tried even harder to sell the place, knowing that I'd been able to do that in New Zealand very easily, using this method without even realizing it. And what happened was I had to again get clear on what I wanted. And what I really wanted was not to sell my house. What I really wanted was to move. And as soon as I got clear on that and I started doing the work around the creative process around moving, everything happened within weeks. We even were in a new place within about 8 weeks of that realignment. And so I received what I needed. I did not sell my house at that time. And it was rented out on the 24th of December at a time where no one would expect for that to be possible. But that's exactly what happened during those weeks. And everything was fine. One took care of the other, and we have a property investment out of it, as opposed to having to sell that house. So sometimes we just have to allow for things to happen, but we go back to the beginning, knowing what we want, and then looking at blocks and barriers. So it is a balance of both. But the techniques themselves for being able to get through blocks and barriers, I've tried one that's quite recently that I've found really useful, and that is getting into a state of beingness. So you've got blocks and barriers in a particular area that you've identified as slower in manifesting than you expect, and you've done everything that you need to do. You've gone back and checked really that you've done what the work that you need to do, that you're in a receiving mode, that you're taking action, and that you've released on possible blocks and barriers. Even if you're not sure, you've just released on them and dwelled on having the problem. Then the beingness is a stage where you can be in imagination, and for instance, let's just say for money, you can multiply the lifestyle or the money amount depending on what you're going for at the moment that is specific. So if you have a specific amount of money that you'd like to have as income, you multiply that by 10. And when you do that, you imagine what it's like to have that times 10. And then you imagine spending it as well, and you keep all that in the imagination. You don't bring that into the reality, but you're aware of the reality of your requirements. And so there's a wonderful lesson in that for beingness, to use your imagination just to open up the flow, not to create the result you're imagining, but to bring you along further and faster than you would have for something that is just a basic reality of some requirement that you have, some requirement of money or of a particular outcome or a result or a thing that you're looking at manifesting, but you seem to be stuck. Just multiply it up by 10 times what you could imagine getting, and then live in that beingness several times a day. Visit that beingness and be happy about it. And then what'll happen possibly before you get to really enjoying that imagination is all the blocks and barriers that are really there, because the doubt, the lack, the fear will come into it. Because imagining it and then not being able to spend in reality right now when you're feeling it may bring up the feelings that you have that are really sitting there about lack. And that really means that you don't have the faith that you can get there. That's where the impatience comes from. It comes from a lack of faith in getting there, or faith in being able to do it, or faith in being good enough to have it, or that some time has elapsed and something's wrong. That's the judgment. So just use your imagination, but in a times 10 way, so that you can hang out in a good feeling imagination and do the other side of it. Spend in that imagination too, and then be satisfied with having visited that for enough moments of beingness that you can come back to reality and be satisfied, knowing that the creative process is in play, and you'll start to see movement. You'll start to open the flow, and that's where you'll start to get back into speed manifesting in that particular area, and that maybe new area, maybe old area. But the beingness, the using the imagination with emotion is important, but this times 10 brings it out of the need, brings it into a nice feeling of imagination that you don't even have to get to. The point about it is just to enjoy it, just to hang out in it, so that you can have good feelings. And it's yet another way. If there's another type of technique that you have, then use that. Use it in any way that serves you. Okay. So if there are any questions on the chat, you normally on these chats you have to log in and or sign up, and then you can do your interactive chats. Other than that, as a guest you can certainly ask questions, and that's through the Ustream channel or through the chat roll. Okay, so beyond that, I just want you to be aware that the method works, that it works easily for people who don't have blocking beliefs and barriers. But the beauty of striving for something with guidance and with new knowledge and information and inspiration to carry on is that you can create in a new way now. And so that it's okay to now face whatever barriers you might have had in the past that were holding you back, because you have the tools. And you're getting more tools. And you are not just learning more, but becoming more. You aren't the same person that you were a year ago. And in your journey for learning and growing, you are becoming and building a character that is aligned with what you want. And so you get to experience letting go of the personalities or the parts of your personality that you don't want. So the personality that isn't serving you anymore, you get to replace with character. The personality that is serving you, you get to keep, but you get to keep with awareness. You get to keep with full choice. So, beyond that, that is our Thursday webcast. Thanks for joining us. I do appreciate you very much, and I appreciate that you've come and listened and taken in even more. This is Lori Mitchell, and we will see you next week.